Welcome to TestTube, a place where we can share our knowledge through short videos. Even you can contribute to us by making a small video of any problem that you face in your life and how you have solved it. The video can be as short and as simple as possible, and you upload it in your Google Drive and share that link to us through that email that is shown over in this video. This way we can build a rich library having solution to any problem that anybody could possibly face in their life, and they can find a solution over here in this comment space. And by the way, the video will be uploaded with your name on it so that you can have all the credit for this. Thank you.
In this video, we are going to see how to pass a JSON response, and in the JSON response, how can we validate an element in JSON array or an element in hash map or a string element or an integer element. And also we see how do we use assertions in REST assured. In our previous session, we have seen how do we build REST APIs using headers and authentications. And whatever we have seen so far is a manual testing, and now let us move a step ahead and see how do we automate these test cases. Okay, this can be done by using assertions and also by doing certain validations of the JSON response which we get. Let us see how this is done. So I have used the same API which I have done in our earlier session or video. The only difference is that I have added assertions and I have shown how do we verify certain elements of a JSON response by passing the response. Okay, so there is no change. This is the request and this is how it is built. If you wanted to understand what it is, I would recommend you to watch the previous video on how do we build a request along with the header parameters and authentication and the query parameters. So once you watch that video, you will understand what we are testing. And now we'll continue to see how do we pass a JSON response. Okay. So this part is showing that we have sent a request and we have received a response, and the response is stored in RESP object. Okay. Now I'm going to pass the response which is RESP as shown it on over here. So if you notice this one, this is the regular stuff which is printing the response. This is going to print the status code of the response. In this case it's going to be 200 probably, and from this up onwards we are going to see how do we pass the response and print different elements of a response. Okay, now let me run the same test in Postman. Okay, it is already run. Let me run it again. See, I have run the same API and this is the response I got. Copy. The response is consisting of. So it has consisted different values, uh, page per page, total pages. These are all hash maps, and we can validate these values by using Jsonpath. So we can tell to go to this path and validate this value, this value, this value, and this value. So that is how we can do it. We'll see it in a while. And if you notice this one, this is an array. As you see, it started with open square braces, and somewhere it has ended over here. So whatever is inside this one is either an array or this is a list. So data, mm, this uh, parameter data is having a value which is a list element is what we see. So we are going to see how to validate an integer, how to validate this array, and inside this array itself, mm, this is again another hash map. So this is going to be a list or array of hash maps. So now we'll see how to validate a hash map which is inside a JSON array. So that's what we are going to see. Now let us understand how this is done. So this one, mm, where I'm going to print this uh, particular field. So as we see it over here, we see page. So now I'm going to go to this path and capturing this value. So I'll show how do we capture it. For now, I'm printing this one. So we have to go to this JSON path and print the value. This is a key and this is the value. So JSON path is leading me to this key and I'm going to print value at this key. So how do we do it is this RESP object has access to this method called Jsonpath, which will uh, instruct us to go to this JSON path. And this has further access to different methods as we see here. I'll just type it over here just to show what are the different methods we have access to. So this has access to these are all validation related methods. What we are looking into it is this method. So it has access to get boolean method, get byte, get char, get double, get float value. So we can fetch these types of values and we can pass the JSON path over here. So now let us see one by one based on the values which we wanted to validate. Over here I wanted to validate the field for this JSON path. So I wanted to validate, I'm treating it as a character, so it's fine. I can instead use get int also, but I'm using get char and it is fine. So I have called this method and I have passed the path of it. So the path is going to be page. So I pass this page. So I'm expecting it over here to print 2 for this particular line of code. And here what I'm doing is um, okay, and this one is going to print the data. So this is the key. This is going to print the value of this particular key. So the path is data over here. And since I know that data is holding a list, I'm going to use this method as get list. Earlier I have used get char. So it's because I know that this is going to be a character. Though it is an integer, we can also treat it as character. But I know the value of data is going to be an array or list. So I have called that method which is get list method. and it should return uh, this array, data array over here. So it should return all of it. Now let us see uh, after running it whether it has returned that or not. And in my next line, what I am printing is I'm printing the same thing, and this time I'm treating it as a JSON object. And that is correct. This is actually a JSON object as well. So there is no difference. It is going to print the same response. And now again, not again. This is a different value what we are printing here. So if you notice it carefully, what it is consisting of is array of different hash maps, set of hash maps. So this is going to be one hash map, this is going to be another hash map, this is going to be another hash map. So in my array or list, first element is a hash map. So if I wanted to access this one, I'm going to use get hash map method. So this entire data is an array. However, individual elements such as data 0 is a hash map, data 1 is a hash map, data 2 is a hash map. So I have to use mm, get hash map method if I wanted to access something over here. So in this case, what I'm printing is I'm printing the first hash map inside data. So this is the first hash map which is data 0 mm, inside the data array. It is going to print first map in array. Let us see. Mm, After I run it, I'll just check, cross check over here that it has printed this, it has printed this, it has printed this, and it has printed this. Now let us see how to print the same thing again in a different way. So there are many ways that we can do a thing over here, and that's what exactly I'm going to show. So this way we can print the first map in an array, and also we can print the first map in an array using this way as well. So here what I have done is I have retrieved the list. This is a list like I said. So in this list, this is the first element, this is second element, this is third element. So I am getting the first element. We're calling the method get one. This is not first element, in fact this is second element. Second map. But is get zero, it's going to be second map. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an element which is email in my 1, 2, 3 third map. So that's what I'm going to add. So what I have done is using the Jsonpath method, I have called the second and third element by using this method get map, and in the third hash map I am trying to call this particular field. So get, and I have used this uh, key value. Okay, so you can either give an integer or you can give either the key value in order to print that particular element. Okay, so this is how you can pass your JSON response, and you can verify any value. You can verify this individual values, you can verify this entire map together, you can verify individual values inside the hash map which is part of list or an array. So this is uh, the most common verifications that you will be doing practically in your projects that you are doing in your company. So there is nothing else that we have missed over here as part of verifications. So this is how you can parse different elements in a JSON response. Now let us move one more step ahead and try to understand assertions. Okay. Um, as we see, these are different types of assertions that are available, and these are standard Java assertions, which we are using again in rest assured. So as we see these assertions over here, the first assertion is asserting that response code is 200 or not. So if the response code is 200, the assertion will pass and it won't fail this test case. If the assertion has failed, it will fail the test case. Alright, and similarly we are asserting um, this value, um, page value, and we are asserting it for 2. So if the assertion is matching, then this will be a successful test. I'll just show you what are different asserts we have. So we can assert for equality mm, with the different expected and actual results of different data types, and we can assert for mm, we can print our customized message as well. I'm doing it over here. We can assert for false. Similarly, we can assert for true. We can assert for same. So at the same time, we can also print this message. So these are the different asserts which you can explore for yourself. For now, I'm going to explain only what we are seeing it here now. Okay, so I have asserted for these two values. This is one way, and here I have asserted for true. This is little tricky to understand, but I'll try to explain it in an easy way. So what does this mean is assert and assert for truth. What does this mean is it will verify what is inside is true or not. If it is true, then what is going to happen is the assertion will be success and it won't print this message. If the assertion has failed, then it is going to print what it is inside. So here what is our assertion is we are checking variable is equal to 2 or not. So variable is storing a value um, of the key called page. So if this is matching with 2, then our assertion will be assessed for truth. So it will continue and there won't be any failure. If the assertion has failed, it will fail here and also it will print this message on failure. Okay, so this is a little tricky to understand, but this is what it is. Fine. So in automations, using rest assured, these are most common methods which we will use to assert something which is returned in JSON response, and that is one way. And there is another way that we may need to automate something from the response, and this is how it is done. So you will have expected result stored in some variables, or you will have expected results stored in your Excel sheets, and get that expected result from that Excel sheet to this code and compare it against the actual result. The actual result is something which you have captured from the response by parsing the response. Here I have passed the response for the value total. So total is going to have 12 over here, and I'm validating it against the expected results. For testing purpose, I have given the result which will match so that it will pass. So if the test case expected result and actual results are matching, the, the result is going to be that it is passed. The test case is passed. It won't fail it over here. It will just execute this step and it will keep value as test is passed in the TESTNG report log. And if this has failed, it will log the test has failed with this message in TESTNG report. And also manually you can fail this test case. If you don't use this stuff, what is going to happen is, if the test is passed, it will report a log and it will pass the test case. If the test is failed, again it will still pass the test case, and in the log it will say the test is failed, which makes no sense. So what you have to do is you have to fail the test when this condition is met, which is the expected result and actual results are not matching. And how do we achieve it is using the fail method in assert class. So what it is going to do is, if the condition doesn't match, this condition doesn't match, it will go to else and it will uh, report it in the log, and also it will fail that particular step. So that is the use of assert.fail method. If it has passed, anyways TestNG will record it as passed, so you don't have to pass it manually. But if it is failing, TestNG will just execute the statements unless until it has specific failures like this, which we are mm, doing using assert statements. So in that case, we will go for assert.fail method, which will fail the test case based on the condition. This is what this entire script is about. And now let me run this now. So it is running now. Okay, it has executed and there is no failure. Now let us see and try to understand what is done and what is validated. So we can see the response is printed, the code is printed at 200, and we are expecting that it has to print 2. It has printed 2, that is perfect. And in this statement, we are expecting it to print the entire array under data. This is the statement, this is the line. You can see it has printed the entire array. Okay, and even here also we expect it to print the entire array. So it has printed as object is the entire array or list. Okay, and now we are printing the first element of this array, which is a map. So we can see it over here. It is going to print this first element only. In the below line you will see, so this is the total array and it has printed only this part below over here. Okay, so that is about this particular line, and let us see what this has done. So it has printed the second hash map in the array. So this is going to be the second hash, sorry, third one, 0 1. Okay, second one. Let us see it clearly. So this is the first one and this is the second one. Lindsay Ferguson. So you can see Lindsay Ferguson. This is also correct. And this is going to print the email or ID of the third element. 0. First one, second one, third one. The email ID is funky. You can see Tobias funky. Right? It has printed this also, which is perfect. Now we are printing the content type of a response. As we know that this is a JSON response, it has returned that it has JSON response. This is a content type. See, now we have verified what is parsed over here. Now let us have a look into assertions. See, like I said, if the assertion is success, it's not going to print anything, it will just keep it as success. As we see here, the assertion is success. It has asserted for truth and it found the truth. So uh, it didn't fail, like we see it over here. There is no failure, and it hasn't printed this message also. It will print this message if the assert true is asserted with a false. Okay, we'll see that one just by changing this value. So I'm asserting for 3. Definitely it is going to be 2. Then it will fail and it will print this statement saying that why it has failed. So I'll run this one. Before I run this one, let us see this as well. So here uh, I have expected 12 and it returned 12. That's why since it is passed, again similar to over here, it has passed with no failures. So all steps are passed. And inside this we didn't print anything, so we just printed the log and we can see that in the log. Now let us see where the logs are. Test output. You can open this default TESTNG output. Okay. You can see this is passed. Show output. You can see the log is recorded as test is passed. We have asked it to record the test as passed. So now this is how it is done. Now I have changed this value. Let me run it again and see whether it has failed or not. So you can see that it has failed. And where it has failed is at this particular test, and the reason is assertion failed. And it prints a message that test is failed because of so and so reason. Is what exactly we have mentioned it over here. So it has failed at this step itself, and it didn't move forward after this particular step, as you can see. Okay, so if you want this to be moved forward, you can keep it in try catch block and proceed further. Now I'm going to correct it and I'm going to validate this particular step. I kept the expected result as 11. Since we know that actual result is going to be 12, this has to fail and this has to keep this in the reporter log and this has to print this reason on why it has failed. Let us see this one. See, it has failed, and now let us see where it has failed. It has failed. Test is failed as expected result 11 doesn't match with the actual result, which is 12th. Actual result 12th. Right? So it has failed at this particular step. So now we know everything. So this is nothing but automation. You have instructed this script to run, and you have used assert statements which are going to validate your test case. So you have validated your response against the expected values, which is nothing but you have successfully automated this test case. So that's all for this video. Thank you.
If you have any videos like this, please upload them in your Google Drive and share that link to us in that email given over here so that we can upload it for you with your name on it. And that way we can build a common repository where anybody can find solution to the problems which they are facing. Thanks for your support, and please subscribe to this channel if you wanted to see more videos like this. Bye.